have started working with teenage kids that are suffering a lot, and a lot of them.
It's a really shame. It's a shame, isn't it? Teenage kids are suffering.
A lot of them are either have been suicidal or like self-harming.
Yes.
And it's knowing this, it's really hard to communicate that.
Yes, yes. It's a big rebellion against I am the body mind, you see. At the youth, at that level, at the teenager. Say, what do you mean I am the body mind? I'm going to kill it. I'm going to kill it. It's part of the path. The part of the path to God, to truth, to freedom, to reality, to eternity is through this identification and the suffering that comes with identification. So as a friend and a helper and a guide, the main what you bring to them is the presence, the peace of presence. And that's the main what you bring to them, which is the reality of the peace of presence. And then, of course, there is a listening space, and from that, the peace, the presence, there is a quieting down of the entire field at a deeper level than even the mind can come to some quiet. So you're not trying to help them or fix them in any way. You are just together as consciousness. It's consciousness appearing as this meeting. No?
Yeah, appearing as this dynamic.
Yes, as this dynamic. And you're together as presence. If you're together as presence knowingly, so you know yourself as presence, it's beautiful. Because you're not in ignorance, I am, this person, this story, and you are that story, and let me see how I can, etc. So if you are knowingly, when you are knowingly in presence, meaning you recognize the wholeness of being. And that the so-called other is none other but yourself as consciousness. Not yourself as a body, but yourself as consciousness. There is in all of us, in every one of us, in each of us, a recognition of that. I was going to say potential recognition, but it's right there, you see. It's not like a complicated thing, You have to sort of explain. No, you need to explain nothing. Let's say it's at the vibrational level. It's at the love level. It's love meaning not an emotional, but love meaning no separation.
I have one thing I want to share. I've never practiced Buddhism, but I did once read somewhere the Buddha I think he called them the Four Noble Truths. And one of the noble truths, evidently, was when he looked around himself, that he saw suffering, and that he saw suffering everywhere. It didn't matter if you were rich, if you were poor, if you were hungry, if you weren't hungry, that was one of the truths that he saw, was that there was suffering.
Yeah. there's also the magnificence of presence, isn't there? The magnificence of presence, the awesomeness of beingness, the awe of being is the marvel of beingness, intelligence, consciousness, life, whatever you call it. And that's astounding. Suffering is a tale, an echo in the distance. It's not about suffering, it's about joy, beauty, love, freedom, celebration of the magnificence of the self, the wholeness of being. Okay, suffering, we all know suffering, but so what? I mean, who cares about suffering? Any one of us cares about suffering? It's like, who cares about suffering? We care about love, freedom, joy, happiness, beauty, friendship. Yes? This. Suffering, I suffer. You suffer because you believe yourself to be a mortal body mind. Nobody's forcing you. Yeah, especially when you come and you hear it. You hear it. You want to believe yourself to be a man, a woman. Man and woman is appearing to you. It appears to you. You perceive the gender. That doesn't make you a gender. You are that which perceive the gender. You perceive the body mind. You perceive bodily sensation. You perceive thoughts. You perceive perceptions, right? So why do you tell yourself, I am I am this body mind, that body mind? It's a big confusion. We confuse the mind, the local mind. We confuse that to be universal consciousness. We overlook universal consciousness. Say, I am this local mind. I am this local mind. Oh, I can see I don't see what you see, I see what I see. Oh, I don't feel what you feel, I feel what I feel. We confuse the I, of meaning consciousness, to be the body mind. The body mind is limited, is local. Is if you have 10 cameras, okay, 10 cameras that are connected to a screen, right? Every camera will they're directed in different directions. This camera shows the woods. That camera shows the table. This camera shows the wall, etc. Yes? Right? But although all these cameras are showing different images, you are the perceiver of all these images. Let's say you are sitting in a room and you have this on this camera, you look at, you perceive all these. I think the metaphor that Francis uses, Francis Lucille, is of the tower. Like there is a tower with many windows. And every window in the tower gives on a different view. Yes? You look from this window, it's the prairie. You look from that window, it's the village, you see, etc. But although there are many different minds, there is only one consciousness, one knower, one knowingness, which we refer to as I. I. Yes? So, relax this, your grip. Relax your grip upon this impression that you are this body-mind. Recognize that this body-mind has a particular characteristics that belong to that body-mind. Some body-minds are female, some body-minds are males, some body-minds have 20/20 vision, some body-minds have better hearing, Some people have a very developed sense of smell and taste, others less, etc. Yes? Right? But it's one consciousness. Like the leaf on the tree. You look on the leaves on the tree, there are lots of branches and thousands of leaves. But they're all, it's one tree. It's one tree. So this is like metaphors. And when you contemplate the self, you're contemplating consciousness. You're not contemplating the body. You contemplate the body when you have a toothache. You say, okay, oh, gee, toothache, I need to go to the dentist. Right? That's when you contemplate the body. When the body is knocking on your door, says, okay, pay attention to me. Otherwise, contemplate consciousness. You contemplate the body when you're hungry. You say, okay, okay, let me cook something. Boom, boom, you cook something, you have something. Otherwise, contemplate consciousness, meaning, what am I truly? What is it that is real? And you will come to the non-phenomenal reality of the Absolute. Non-phenomenal reality, that is the Absolute. That has no limits, no borders, no edges. That I am, that's referred to as I. Is a freshness, a freedom to I. No? Right? But you cannot come to the freshness and the freedom and the vastness and the eternity of the I if you're dragging along this corpse. Oh, I am also the body, I'm also the body, I'm also the body, I'm feeling like this, I'm feeling like that. What will I feel? How will I feel tomorrow? I was feeling good yesterday. I hope I feel good also tomorrow. God, I hope I feel good tomorrow. Yesterday was a great day, You can't. You're dragging along with you these concerns, right? Yes? You are loading up the field. You're putting too many things in the space. Just let what to be in the space, just this beautiful view. The fresh air, the freshness of creation. The freshness of creation.
I have another. This is it's a statement and it's a question. What about when any of us, I pick up the newspaper today and somebody was murdered and a child or a woman was sexually trafficked, yes, or somebody was raped.
Yes.
So what about all that?
Well, it's good to really contemplate that. Like, why is this happening? Why? Why do I covet what you have? Why do I act that way? I act that way because I don't recognize you. I see you as somebody else. Yes? I see you have what I want. You see? So you have what I want, so I'm going to ask you don't give it to me. I might act improper and take from you what I think you have that I want, you see, or what you have that I want. Because I perceive you as somebody else, and I perceive myself as somebody, you see. I perceive that my happiness or my increased happiness, I have increased happiness if I have what's in your wallet, you see. Or if I have a sexual relationship with you, even though you don't want it, if I have that sexual experience, I would perceive myself happier, you see. Yes? Otherwise, I wouldn't do it. So I perceive there is something in it for me. Something in it for whom? Who? For me. What does this mean? For me, as this body-mind. As this body-mind. As this male body-mind, as this female body-mind, as this rich body-mind, or as this poor body-mind, as this healthy body-mind or unhealthy body-mind. You have the health that I want. I'm jealous of you. You have the house or the wife that is prettier than mine, or is richer than mine, or is more sociable than mine. I want her, or whatever. You see, whenever I identify myself with anything, then there is the world of things. And I identify myself with this person. There is a world of others. And then there is having and not having. You see. We forget. We forget God. We forget truth. We forget the reality of consciousness. So we understand that as long as we are forgetting the reality of consciousness, we are forgetting our wholeness, we're forgetting our eternity, our infinity, our bountifulness, our bountifulness. If as long as we don't recognize our bountifulness as consciousness, we are experiencing this lack and this envy and all the emotions, all the negative emotions are being experienced, and the negative emotions may lead to negative behaviors. But you cannot contemplate for somebody else. You can only contemplate for yourself. So that's available to you. You hear this message, you say, okay, wait a minute, it is possible that I will act like these persons in the newspaper that I read, boom, 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 that's what they did, you see. This person, there's my name. You see, it could be. It could be, because it's your name. See? So you have to do the contemplation of taking your name off that list, saying, no, I am not going to have my name on that list. I am going to recognize, contemplate, what am I truly? See? So I contemplate, what am I truly? Now, if you want to try to fix others and help others and so on, then I will ask you, you're going to help them as whom and as what? You see? And if you are going to help them as a person, then I tell you, you better help yourself, because you're not out of the woods. You are in the woods. Okay? There is not the edge of woods or deep in the woods. There is in the woods or not in the woods. Yeah? It's not, I'm in the woods, but no, I'm at the edge of the woods. Others are deeper in the woods than me. That's your story. You're in the woods reading a story about being at the edge of a wood. You're actually in the woods. So I would say, then, as what are you going to help them? And as whom are you going to help them? Is it a passion that's coming to you from God? If it's a passion that's coming to you from God, you don't need to ask anybody. You're just going to do it. Mother Teresa, something spoke to her. She lived her life. She didn't care. You see. And some people like music. They live their life on music. They just surrender to music. That's what it's the same. It's a message coming to them from God. See, she say, God is telling me to help the poor, and he's telling this other person to be a composer or a choreographer. My God, how messed up it is. Look at them. They don't care about other people. That's ignorant. Ignorant, because God speaks all in many different ways. You see, may it speak to you to help people that are being abused. It may speak to him to paint. You see, and it's an expression that is coming from God, and that is going to carry that signature. It will carry that signature. But if you are helping others as a person, out of this idea that some idea, it will carry your action, and will carry that signature. Will carry that signature. Yes.
Thank you.
I kind of use that as motivation. I can't end anyone else's suffering, but I feel responsible for my own. I don't want to add to the suffering.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I got totally honest.
Yeah, hold that thought. We start with concern about our suffering. Maybe in some cases we do. Maybe in many cases we do start with a concern about our suffering. But at some point it shifts to love for truth. So it doesn't stay with concern for suffering. It becomes, at some point, it shifts, becomes more like a recognition that this is the path of light, the path of love, the path of truth. the contemplation of the self, the contemplation of truth is the path of truth. And so you're walking a path of love, you see. And as you walk the path of love, you are love. You see.
Yes, I see it more and more when I don't see someone as different, or I see myself as different, or better than, or less than. And the interaction has a different quality to it.
Yes, yes. In the absence of any me impression that I'm not bringing it on board. Just in my complete nakedness, presence, beingness. There is no other.
I've heard, first of all, suffering, I experience suffering when I don't accept what is.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And I've also heard some say that suffering is what without suffering, there would be no liberation. It's only when we suffer that we actually have, if I were sitting in had everything I possibly wanted, there would not be, I would not be inspired to
Well, what is it that suffers?
what suffers is my ego, my
Yeah, no. Let's say you're suffering now. Go to suffering right now.
Okay.
Okay. What is it that's suffering?
I think it's the sense of it is the illusion of self.
So an illusion is suffering?
Yes, the illusion is suffering. The illusion is challenged.
Oh,
the illusion
oh,
is being challenged, is being told, oh hey, if you don't do something about this.
How do you challenge an illusion? I mean,
well, you challenge the perception of the illusion.
What challenges the perception of an illusion? Because what would challenge the perception of the illusion? Because if you perceive the illusion, then there is no illusion.
Mm-hmm.
An illusion is something that's not perceived. How can you perceive an illusion? I mean, how do you perceive Santa Claus? Or how do you perceive the tooth fairy?
I perceive the story.
Yes, so you perceive the story. If you perceive the story, then you know it's a story.
I don't always. I believe the story sometimes. If I perceive it as a story, then I am that's liberation, is perceiving it as a story.
Okay, so you're perceiving a story, but you're absorbed in the story.
Mm-hmm.
So you forget the story.
Believing the story.
So you're having an exciting time.
Well, sometimes it's painful.
Well, sometimes when I turn on a movie and there is like some movie that like they have like some things in them. I just turn it off. Sometimes I just don't turn it off, and I stay a little longer, and then at some point I turn it off or I change it. You see, maybe I just wanted to sort of get that little tear, get that little sensation.
Isn't that liberation though? It's turning off the story.
There is no cause for liberation. There is no path to consciousness. It is the one reality, the only reality. There is no body that comes and goes to it. The term liberation can be deceiving. So it's used in the teaching, but it's used like when you are feeding your child food and they don't want to eat, and you tell them the story about the train. Here comes the train, here comes the train, here comes the train, here comes the train. They're looking at the train, and suddenly they have to bite. It's used as a train story, as to so the self is already liberated. Consciousness is complete freedom. There is no other reality. There is when you are dreaming that you are drowning, you're not drowning. Nothing is happening. You dream you are drowning out of your freedom. At some level, you enjoy the tug and tear. You know, in some people when they go camping, they play tug of war. They pull and they're pulling and they're holding the rope, and sometimes they go into the dirt, they fall in the mud or whatever. They love that. Some team wins and then they talk about it for a long time. And they play it again next camping retreat. It's the same with this, what you are talking about, suffering. What is it that suffers? You need to look at that. What is it suffers? Because if there is a reality to suffering, then you need to find out what is the reality that suffers. And if there is a reality that suffers, then it must be some sort of limited reality, because something is coming upon it that makes it suffer. A reality that is limited, that's an oxymoron, because reality means one reality, means real today, tomorrow, after today. Reality is not real in the 20th century and was not real in the 19th century. It's real. Reality is reality, you see. So you need to contemplate what is it that suffers. If it's a reality that suffers, then no, cannot be. A reality cannot suffer. Nothing can come and strike it, because there's nothing apart from it. And if it's an illusion, suffering is an illusion, then what are we talking about? Well, are we talking about Santa Claus? Or what perceives this illusion? If something perceives this illusion, then it's not an illusion. Because an illusion that's perceived is no longer an illusion. So we're talking about an illusion as something that is not perceived, that has no perceiver. Because if something perceives the illusion, then it won't be an illusion. So what are we talking about? I'm talking to ask ourselves, to be looking at that. But in terms of resistance to what is, resistance to what is a fat lie. How can you resist what is? Has anybody ever resisted what is?
Yeah.
What is. No, you don't resist what is. No, this is a story. How can you resist what is? Oh, how? What is?
Live in denial?
Live in denial. Denial. What does that mean? To live in denial.
Escape what is?
How can you escape? Where do you go?
Resisting what is what is, and therefore it's no longer resisting what is.
There's just consciousness. It's just beingness, isness, whatever you want to call it. What do you mean by resisting what is? You need to look at that. Or accepting what is. How do you accept what is? Or how do you resist what is? There's no. This is a futile conversation.
I think it's kind of like resisting what is. The way I understand it is not being present, basically, and trying to, like, believing that I can control that.
How can you not be present? How are you? How can you
Okay,
try not to be
so
present?
Then more so, identifying with the separate self versus with consciousness.
Yeah, well, we like to do that. We love to do that. Mm-hmm. We identify with some people. Identify with somebody who's hearing Jesus. In New York City, I don't see it much in Washington D.C. When I'm in New York City, you go down to wherever you go, you see people, they're channeling. God knows what they're channeling. Huh?
Where do they have that? Where in New York?
Where?
What do they have in D.C.?
Many places. Oh goodness, many places. Many places. You go down to Washington Square Park. I'm recalling. It's been many years I left New York, but there's many places. People they're channeling whatever they're channeling.
Channeling's pretty legitimate nowadays. It's a very spiritual thing.
Yes, you're right. There's a channeling. There's a channeling channel. The channeling channel.
Or there could be far out weird channels too. You know, like outer space channels.
But yes, the identification with anything, in particular the body mind, what else we identify with, that limits the spaces. It creates an impression at the body level, at the sensory level. It limits the energetic field. It's sort of the energetic field sort of starts to gets denser and is moving in a tighter space. You see, it's. I'm just using imagery. There is no such thing as a tight space. I'm just using imagery. I'm using language to express that what we refer to as suffering is this identification that we experience as feelings. We experience it as feelings. And it's always identification. If you look at suffering, it's identification. And it's feelings. So then there is a story, they're not acting in such and such a way, they're not doing this, she did this, he did that, you see. But at the root of that is I am me, this body-mind, and he or she is this body-mind, this other body-mind. And they've done this or they've done that in violation, they took something away from me meaning me, the body-mind, they meaning they, the body-mind. So the whole charade or the whole spectacle of suffering is about that. So the impression that suffering is real is as it can be only as real as your as your belief that you are a body-mind. Your suffering is the barometer of your suffering, or Degree of your suffering is the degree of your identification. Yeah, that you can call suffering. Yes, suffering is identification, is I as consciousness identifying with a form. Meaning, you dream, I as consciousness, I'm dreaming I'm a man. I'm dreaming that I'm born and I'm living in time and space. And that things are happening to me, and I pray to God that some good things will happen to me, and that bad things will happen to them. They wronged me, you know. I'm going to poke the thing with the voodoo for them, and they're doing the same thing for me.
We're doing something. It's just as good. Whatever we do to try to affect this world, it can be just as effective as a voodoo doll.
Yeah, the people are totally into that. You know, it's all a play in a way, but it's unhappy. You see, it's unhappy because identification is unhappy. Any identification is unhappy, and all the sources of your suffering, misery, suffering, is at that, about that. But you don't need to give it so much. You don't need to make a big thing out of suffering, you know. Just notice your choice to be a man. But you say, I'm a man. You say, I'm a man. Okay, you know, if you want to be a man. You see, I say, I'm a man when, depending in some circles, when people ask me, no, nobody has asked me that for a long time, but nobody, I don't. But you know, I mean, like in some circles, I say, yeah, I'm like the blah blah, you know. But that's not what interests me. I don't hang out in those circles too much. You know, sometimes I have to, but otherwise, no. Otherwise, no, I don't. You remain as the truth, as what is real, what is true. See, so that's what I am. When I say I, the universal I am the truth. You see, I cannot be more truth than you. It's a joke. You follow? It's simple. Oh, I am more true than you. Or the Christian, you're Buddhist, I'm more true than you. Somebody once, not too long ago, told me about Jesus. They say, yes, true, there are many sages, but it's only one Lord Jesus. Okay, fine, we don't touch that. It's good. I'm never going to touch that. You, Jesus, is good, perfect, beautiful. Okay, you see, but so I will not.
Trying to convince them otherwise could create suffering.
I saw a couple of people trying to do that, and I said, okay, there they go. Watch the show. Watch the show.
I apologize. I'm asking